All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Center of Architecture this evening. We're really excited to host a wonderful panel this evening that's going to talk about the development of Stonewall and the Visitor Center based on the National Monument that was designated by President Obama right before COVID, essentially. Just to introduce myself, my name's Matt Ferraro. I'm Associate Principal with Weissman Freddie, and I'm the co-chair of the AIA New York LGBTQIA+ Alliance. We're honored to have Mark Segal here today, author, activist, and pioneer from the days of the Stonewall riots. So Mark has been very involved since that day and with this project itself. We have Diana Rodriguez here as well. She's founder of Pride Live, and she's also the founder of the Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center, which we'll learn a bit about more today. And then Richard Untatina, did I say that right? Good. He's the design director at EDG. EDG is the architectural firm that was selected to design the Visitor Center, as well as the facade rehabilitation of the Stonewall Inn and the Stonewall Visitor Center. Melinda Koo was also involved. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us this evening, but we have a wonderful set of panelists that are going to walk us through a little bit of history and the founding of the Monument and Visitor Center. So I'll turn it over to them. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Come into the bar through those red curtains. And for me, every night the idea was to walk through here, get to the end of the bar, and if a song came on that I liked, that's what I danced to. This looked more America than out in Manhattan somewhere. It looked real to me. It felt like home.
The question always is, what kind of a world do we want to be a part of? Each of us has a responsibility to take this struggle back to her and his community, translate it into daily action, tomorrow and the day after, and next week and next year. Let it be reflected in a renewed commitment to struggle for a future where we can all flourish, for not one of us will ever be free until we are all free.
Good evening. I'm Mark Segal. Let's see. Start out with, I was born in 1951. I'm prehistoric. So what was it like to grow up in the 1950s and 1960s, and how did we get over here? Well, I grew up in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was a city of 1.6 million people. But in the 1950s and 60s, since we were so invisible as a people, I thought I was the only one. We weren't on TV, weren't on radio, weren't in magazines. We were totally invisible. If I wanted to find out who I was, I'd have to go to the library. In those days, 5 books. Where did I find them? Criminology department, the religion department, psychiatric department. So what did I think of myself? Not very good. And so there weren't other people like me to find out what I was. So one evening, late at night, on PBS, Channel 12 in Philadelphia, at midnight, they had a show called The David Susskind. And on this one show, they had real live homosexuals. I was amazed. Wow, that's what I am. And they said they lived in a place called Greenwich Village in New York. So on May 10th, after getting out of high school, where do you think I went? So I came here, and there was no neon sign saying this way to the gay people. So I looked around, and I found Christopher Street. And that became, in a sense, my home. Every night, walking up and down that street with my friend, Nova, Jerry Hughes, Bob Kohler, whomever, we would do what for me, every 18-year-old did, which was you talk about fashion, you talk about who's going out with whom, what have you. But at the end of the night, what did you do? If you're an 18-year-old like me at that time, you wanted to dance your ass off. So you went to Stonewall. Stonewall was the only place you could go to dance. And why was that? You see, on the street, if I was with my friend Nova, she might not be dressed in the right male clothing, so she might get harassed by the police. Or there might be people coming from another section of town, and they might want to harass the fags on the street. You went into Stonewall, it might have been mafia-owned, it might have not been a great place, the drinks might have been watered down, but guess what? You felt safe in there. You felt safe to dance, you felt safe to hold hands, you felt safe to kiss. It was a very safe place to be until that night in June. That night in June, the police didn't just come in and get a payoff and leave. They burst through the doors. They started breaking up the bar. They started throwing bottles around. They started throwing people up against the walls. I felt scared. I'd been in New York for 6 weeks. I was frightened and angry. I thought, gee, someone should call the police. These were the police. It was probably one of the lowest feelings I think I've ever had in my life. Something changed as we got outside. Rather than being frightened and scared, we became angry. And we fought back. It was the first time we'd ever fought back. And for me that night, 2 simple things happened. One, Marty Robinson came over, gave me a piece of chalk, and said, right on the walls in the street, tomorrow night, Stonewall, which created the second night where Marty Robinson spoke from the steps of what was, in a sense, the burnout Stonewall. And then we created Gay Liberation Front. But then, a few years ago, I met this wonderful woman over here who said, hey, we're going to bring back Stonewall. And we're going to make it a visitor center, and it's going to be a national monument. And I'm looking and going, yep. And she's done it. But the most incredible point for Stonewall for me was that for 30-plus years, I never spoke about it because I was back in Philadelphia doing things to help what I thought was the movement along. And everybody in New York was fighting over it. And I didn't want to get involved in that fight until Diana came along. And now I'm fully invested. But one of those aha moments, and we've had several aha moments, was that opening clip. So when people go down the Stonewall now and see the recreation, the Stonewall bar that's there now is a recreation. It's not the original Stonewall. And when I go in, it does nothing for me. It doesn't make me feel nostalgic or anything of that sort. And if you've gone into it, you know you enter into the left. And other people who claim to have been at the original Stonewall always describe that as going into Stonewall. And when I first met Diana, she asked me a lot of questions, and I always said, no, you went in through the right. You walked down a hallway and went in through the right. Then about a half year ago or so, when they took it down to the bricks and the beams, I got a call from Diana. She says, you have to come up here and see this. Is that what I sound like? Yeah. And I walked in the front door, and she said, pointed, and there was the stone, bricked up doorway that I'd walked through 1,000 times. And it was amazing. And then I was able to show her how I walked in the bar and what it was like. And up until that point, when people used to ask me, what was the Stonewall like, I used to always say, red, brown, and black. And I never understood that until that day. And the minute I saw the doorway, I turned around, I said, I walked through the red curtains here, I saw the brown bar there, and the black ceiling. So it's one of those aha moments that we've had a lot of since then. I think we'll have a lot more. So with that, it is my honor and privileged to present to you a woman who has opened my eyes and given me chills back that I never thought I'd have ever again. Diane Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Normally when we do this, I go first because I don't like to go after Mark because he's so interesting. I also want to just quickly acknowledge Jason, who's Mark's husband, who's here. My spouse, Ann, could not be here, so Jason has double duty tonight, so thank you, Jason. Oh, they took it down. They had that wonderful photo of you with the wonderful long hair and the, yeah. That's one of my favorite. That one right there.
Beautiful at one point.
Look at this guy, right there. Yeah, that's Mark.
That's me over there.
That's Mark. The hair and the, yeah, the
That's
good
me
look.
right there.
Yeah, yeah. Aren't those great? So thank you, Mark, for being here, for being by our side for however long it's been now. So Diana Rodriguez, founder of Pride Live. I've only ever worked in not-for-profit, so that's 32 years. I started out at Jackie Robinson Foundation, and then I ran the Glad Media Awards for 7 years, and then I ran events at the Clinton Foundation. And then a while back, a small team and I said, we should do our own thing. And that's how Pride Live started. And I think our mission statement was we want to help people. That's how creative we were. And never, if you had told me then that we would be here, I would have believed you. So yes, the Visitor Center. About 6 years ago, I was asked by chance to go to a meeting with folks from the National Parks Conservation Association in the Obama administration. And I had heard, I think like a lot of us, that there was this talk about the Stonewall National Monument. And I went to the meeting and I heard that it was possibly going to happen, that President Obama was going to try and push it through before he left office. And they said, hey, do you want to be a part of the team? And I said, of course. Ann and I are huge national park fans, so to have the opportunity to be a part of that effort. Fast forward a year and a half later, we were there for the designation ceremony of the Stonewall National Monument. President Obama was supposed to come. He was technically told not to come because Pulse had happened a couple of weeks before. And they thought it was too dangerous for him to come. So they sent Valerie Jarrett, which never made sense to me. I'm like, send someone else. But that's where I first met Valerie, and she was quite lovely representing the administration. And after the ceremony, she said, you know, Diana, the next thing we need is a visitor center. And I just chuckled, because there were a time there was only 3 of us at Pride Live. And I said, well, you should go talk to someone else. You know, there's only 3 of us at Pride Live. But Valerie, being Valerie, she kind of set the seed. So we started to do our due diligence, like how much might this cost? What would the partnership look like? Where would it be? And I think when it's something that compelling, there are a lot of red flags. But when you really want something to happen, all you see are green lights. So when 51 Christopher became available for lease, for us that was a green light. When we had a conversation with the National Park Service about this official partnership and being the first LGBTQ visitor center within the National Park Service, and they said yes, we said, well, that's a green light. The commercial lease may be a huge red flag. A 10-year commercial lease is not something you're excited about. But again, we kind of saw everything starting to line up. So we started to figure out what it would cost to make this happen. And we had the number, and we started to raise towards that number. And then COVID hit. And that kind of put everything in flux. We didn't know if we could raise another dollar with everything that was, especially everything that was going on in the city. But gratefully we came through. 51 was still available. We signed the lease. And that, believe it or not, was the easy part. It really kind of came down to how do we represent being the first LGBTQ visitor center within the National Park Service and really represent the monument. I think a lot of people, when they think about the monument, they just think about the park. I don't know if that slide is up, but it's much bigger than the park. It includes a couple of buildings, and that's really important, is that people have accurate information about what the monument actually represents. So to be on this track, to create the visitor center at 51 Christopher, which I think even less people knew was the other half of the bar, which kind of surprised us. We said, well, this is perfect. This is a perfect place to have it. To this group, I will say I know more about plumbing and build out and electrical that I would ever want to know. But it is an older space. And we needed to find a partner that would take really great care of this very important space. And then we went to them and said, and you need to start from scratch. Whatever Beyond Studs is, that's where we were. And we said to EDG and Richard and Tao and everyone who's here, we said, well, we want to be there for 100 years. So you have to make it that way. Like the foundation has to be that strong. And there were days I went in and I'm like, there's no floor and there's no ceiling. And they're like, what's going on? But that's what it takes for you to be in a space for 100 years. So, when we were looking for the architect team, we interviewed a lot of folks. It was that important. And these guys really listened. There were a lot of great groups that we interviewed. And they have a great portfolio. And they have a great team. And I didn't want to work with a group that had representation. I wanted to work with a group that had members of the community leading the group. And that's what's happened here. But yeah, it's not been an easy project. I'll let Richard will speak to that. But it's because we want to be there for forever, and they had to take everything from that. The last thing I'll share is that the visitor center being the first of its kind is very special. The partnership that we have with the NPS is very special. To be the first of its kind and to help people understand that the people on this stage are part of the National Park Service. And I think when people think NPS, they don't think gay people, they don't think queer people, they don't think urban, they don't think a brick building. So that's all part of the work that EDG has brought forward, so that when people walk in, they will understand that. They will understand the history of the space, they will understand the partnership that we have with the NPS, and they will bring to life what that space means for a new generation that is very different and works very differently and lives very differently than Mark lived, than I lived. So that's all been part of the design process. I don't know if you want me to, what else I might be saying. So I do want to say that it's not easy to have a client who knows nothing about architecture, who knows nothing about build out. And every time they said something, I'm like, are you sure? Because it was always kind of something. So it hasn't been the easiest of roads, but they have been the best of partners. So to Richard, and I know Tao is here. I don't know who else is here from EDG. I know Nathan is here. If you're with EDG, raise your hand. Oh, there they all are. Hey. So to all of you guys, I want to thank you. You've been a part of something that's very, very special. And if you had a reaction to that video, the last thing I'll say, I'll talk about the video. Everyone on my team is younger than me, gratefully. And I did call Mark, maybe in that voice. And I said, please come down. Because I did tell the demo team, I'm like, please be careful. And they gave me the middle finger. They were like, we're a demo. And I said, but this is a very important place, and you might find something that is of that time. And then when they found the wall, everything changed. They changed. And I said, well, we have to stop, because I have to call Mark. And so Mark came down, and we were doing some content and videotaping him and interviewing him. And when he got to the back, which was the dance floor, and Jason had downloaded Age of Aquarius, and Mark started to play it. And I turned around, and my entire team was crying, because they were kind of reliving a time that was before them through Mark. So that's what we hope the work together represents for everyone when they get to visit. And I just want to, Richard, to you and the team, and Jason, and to my friend, thank you very much.
You're both tough acts to follow. I just want to start by saying thank you to both of you for being here and being part of this. I'm always struck by how profound just your experiences have both been. Seeing you in those pictures, it's incredible.
I look better than.
I would say that. It's amazing this opportunity for EDG to be a part of this team. No, really. I mean, it's on so many levels. You know, there's a slide that's a little bit further back. I mean, 20% of our staff is part of the community, so it's very profoundly important to our firm and to all of us. And just, you know, I'm struck by the stories. I mean, it's incredible. It's been very edifying for me and for the team to be a part of this. It's really been an incredible experience. I know it hasn't, like you say, always been easy. It's always a challenge. You know, construction, architecture, it's not easy, as this crowd knows for sure. But thank you for the opportunity. It's really very meaningful to all of us, and I speak on the behalf of everybody at EDG, really. And you know, this really is a special project because, I mean, it is the first of its kind like this. And so, I mean, it's important civically, it's important, you know, nationally, but also globally. I mean, it's going to touch a lot of people's lives. So to be a part of it is very, very special. And so I think, you know, looking to the future, it's amazing what you've accomplished. So, well, together, yeah, thank you for letting us be a part of it. I'm gonna just turn around a little bit so I can see this a little bit better. So we initially started on this project restoring the facades, and so this is really it was many permutations, many businesses had been in the spaces, as Mark pointed out. I mean, this isn't the original place that it once was. It was a nail salon. It was a bagel shop. It was a multitude of things. So in both sides, it was completely, you know, something different for many, many years. And so this is a historic floor plan of this space as it was back in the day. The north portion there, you have, these are actually reversed. 51 Christopher is actually our space above where the bar used to be at the top there. So the Stonewall bar is page south, and then the visitor center is page north right there. We'll go to the next slide, but you can kind of see the way in which you'd come into the south space and then connect into the upper space and then be able to come back into the other space. So it was sort of a nice perambulation. And Mark, you touched on, you know, some of the colors that you saw and the red curtains, and you know, so
Those are the
and
only colors that were there.
right, that was it. So the brown bar, and this is a fantastic slide because this shows the passageway that was unearthed through the demo. So this is actually, I mean, this is profound because that was actually there and that connected the two spaces. So this is really an important artifact, a relic that, you know, needs to be celebrated, and it really is celebrated in this space. The way in which we'll sort of run through it, and you'll see it in the slides. It's really commemorated in a beautiful way. This to the right of that, this is a fragment we found in the space. Now this was extant to the space. We can't verify, you know, if it was there night of, but again, just given the importance of the space and the meaning of the space, I mean, every artifact, I mean, it was very funny. I mean, Gabriel came back from the site, he was a structural engineer. It's like, oh my God, I found these, you should have seen when I found it. He was bringing these things back to the office. I mean, this fragment's like 8 feet tall. And so we have some of these fragments, but it was amazing. This here is just an image of the type of construction it is. It's very old buildings from the late 1800s, so you can kind of see the way it's kind of put together. Diana's not lying in the sense that there's, at every turn, there was something to contend with that we needed to grapple with at every turn, essentially. And so I'm going to just sort of run through the acknowledgement of history and the sort of straightforward storytelling that we were trying to undertake, and then the placemaking and partnership that was really about, you know, working together to, you know, make this thing happen as partners. So we'll jump to the next image. And again, just to underscore, this is the space just to the right. I should mention, don't take any pictures. Please put all your phones away. I need to make this announcement. This is very sensitive information just because there's a lot of partners involved in this project, a multitude. And so nothing has really, you're the first to see this stuff, believe it or not. So it's very sensitive. So please don't take any pictures. So again, this is the space. You entered into that portion, and then the little arrows will kind of walk you through. You go to the bar, the brown bar, through the red drapes, curtains, and then into the dancing hall, which was all black. And then again, so the second arrow in the middle, that's where the passageway is. That's where it lives. And so in the space, there's a little vignette there in our space. That's where it lives to connect the two spaces. And so, you know, that acknowledgement is very, very important in this design. The bar, the brown bar right there, just to the right, what we did is just make an outline as a memory of the space of that bar in the terrazzo floor, just as an acknowledgement of the importance of what that was, the celebratory aspects, the gathering, just the importance of understanding, like you see it in your mind, you understand it there, and we wanted to really acknowledge that and place it into the floor. So that was important for us. And then again, I talked at length of the fragment we found, and what we did is we recreated the pattern, and you'll see it later on in slides. We recreated this particular tin ceiling in a sort of micro-perfed tin ceiling, which shows up in the front of the space. And then, you know, we wanted to speak to the past and then speak to the present. And then this image, which is it's a little blown out, but you'll see it later on in some images. We recreated it as a 3D printed dome. So it was a reinterpretation of that tin ceiling. So it was really sort of a narrative of past, present, and future. As, again, that storytelling and just making a nice focal moment. You'll see it in the renderings above the reception area. And here, I'm just going to run through some of the elevations, and this will make a little bit more sense. I mean, this crowd's pretty adept at reading elevations for sure, but the top, that's the vestibule where you first come in, point of entry. There's going to be some art on the walls, which will change and be curated. In the center is a reception area where the rangers will be, the park rangers, and there'll be some retail and so forth. And then to the left of that is the Parsons School wall. So we really, this is going to be something that's going to be programmed by the students and be an annual thing. We'll be able to put together whatever, you know, excites them and interests them and so forth, and speaks to, you know, their scholastic pursuits and their lives. And then this is an exhibition space for generations. And then just to the right of that is a door down to the cellar. And then this area in the back is an exhibition area, conference center, and so forth. So that's the east wall. And then the west wall, that was just a reflection there. So you have some display shovel boxes on both sides, and then that's the entry to the bathrooms. And then that whole swath there, which you'll see in the renderings, is an exhibit wall, which really is a lovely narrative that places Stonewall in the rich history of LGBTQ. And then this, just to the left here, is the passageway, and then the wall next to that is a flag wall, which is Diana's uncle's flag, and then a commemoration by Obama, and then another activation wall. And some of those activations you're going to see in the renderings later on. I'm not going to belabor it on this. And so I'm going to walk you just through. Okay, so this is a structural drawing. There was a lot of work to do in this floor. I mean, it was completely uneven. At the entry, there was a step up. It was completely not accessible for ADA. So that was important to address, both from a landmarks perspective, because the whole thing is a landmark facade, so it's a little bit tricky. So we needed to level the floor all the way from front to back, and it is a long, deep space. And then the structural systems change from very, very old, decrepit wood to semi-decrepit wood to reasonably decrepit wood to concrete. I didn't tell her that, no. But we sorted it all out. We can do that because we have engineers in-house. Anyway, we'll jump to the next slide. That just kind of shows you the area. What was always important was acoustic separation. For Diana, she's a very good neighbor. If she's your neighbor, she's incredible. She was always thoughtful of the other. I was always struck by that. You're always thinking about other people. So she didn't want to disturb the neighbors, and also didn't want herself to be disturbed either, which is important for a space where you're trying to be contemplative in a sort of museum setting, in a gallery setting, in an exhibition setting of this kind, where you want to just be in the space, in the moment, reading the text and really engaging. So we created this elaborate system working with the acoustician to really develop a spring isolated ceiling that would sit under, again, a very decrepit, no, it wasn't so decrepit actually, because there was an apartment above. In the back though, we needed to take out 1/3 of the joist past one of the main beams. So it was all new steel all the way back at the setback terrace level. But this runs the entirety of the space, front to back, and then we also did acoustical treatments on both sides of the walls, and with the exception of where the passageway was. Just some images here of the structure, and then here you have the joist in the center. Lots of MEP running through the ceiling. There were very high ceilings in the space. I think of about 13-foot floor to underside of beams. So we dropped that ceiling, the true finished ceiling, at 10 feet. And then image on the right, you can kind of see things snaking through from down below. We needed to contend a lot with some very old systems in the building, and then bringing in new systems, new fresh air, and really trying to figure it all out, because it's not a huge space, but we wanted to have lots of fresh air, make it very comfortable, and have all of the kind of modern conveniences. Those arches, actually, just to go back for 1 second, you'll see it in the renderings as well. This is just to sort of soften and also make present, these sort of archways, and to encapsulate a little bit better the exhibitions and some of the circulation moves. So the curve does show up. In the middle image, you can see just an image of the 3D printed dome that we're talking about before it was framed in. And then the next slide. This is the other dome. This is the second dome. And this is really to acknowledge a very important figure in the LGBTQ movement, Keith Haring, who's a big figure in New York. And this is his mural at the Gay and Lesbian Center. And so what we wanted to do was play and have a dialogue with that. You can't directly quote Keith Haring. It's a whole to-do with copyright and this and that and the other. So we, again, reinterpreted Keith Haring to a certain extent, just to kind of open up a lovely dialogue with Keith's work. And so we 3D printed a piece that echoed Keith Haring. And here you can kind of see it on our big 3D printer. We have a big industrial 3D printers we get to play with. And this is a time lapse that Nathan, our fabulous marketing director, put together with our incredible 3D team at Synthesis, and you can kind of see it coming together. And these things are amazing. I'm going to geek out a little bit in a little bit. I hope you forgive me, because I just get into this stuff so much. If we go to the next slide. This is cool because we actually wanted something to be a focal point that could address these things. At the front, by the reception, the sort of reinterpretation, a moment of pause, reflection, also in the bathrooms to speak to the Keith Haring piece. But in order to do that, you have to kind of come up with these details that make that pop. So we 3D printed our knife edge so it could kind of sidle into the drywall. So you only see a knife edge, and then just a line of light that makes the piece glow. So you can kind of see the detail in the center there, a little enlarged detail here, and then just sort of working through some prototypes on the right, my left, your right. So we love to sort of develop these kinds of things, and Diana was on board with this. So we're happy and very pleased that we could offer these pieces to the center, because I think they really add a nice just moment of surprise and wonder and whimsy and just contemplation, really. Again, the space is small, but it's about creating little vignettes, little moments, and just having pause. So we'll go to the next slide here. So here is the frontage again. Again, no pictures. So we worked very closely with LPC because they were really all over every little move you make, which, you know, it's very important for them, you know, to sort of control, you know, the look of this. And so again, you can kind of see the stoop at the front. We subsumed the brick into the sidewalk. We kept those doors. We had to work with them on the light fixtures, the signage, keeping the glass as it was. It had to be wood. It couldn't be aluminum. It couldn't, all of these various things. And so that's sort of the extent, frontage really, with the exception of the new sign. And so then when you go into the space, it was very important to create a very open narrative that, you know, front to back, that you'd have eyes on the street, that the work could be seen, people could see, people could be seen. There's always, you know, security issues and so forth, so it's very much about visibility as well. But you can see the vestibule is just comprised of very open, high glass. You can see the extant doors through the vestibule there. You can see the outline of the old bar right there on the image on the left. So that's the reception area just to the left there. And then the image on the right, that's an art wall. Again, you can see the reception and the sort of focal point where the rangers will be, where the two figures are. That's the Parsons wall, and then beyond, that's the exhibition sort of conference hall. This is the ceiling that I was talking about. You can see it comes up to a certain point right above the passageway that you see in both of these images. The intervention was minimal. We wanted to be quiet. We didn't want the architecture to assert itself, because it's very much about the content. It's very much about the memory of all the things that have come before, and all the things that are, and all the things that will be. And so for us, it was about creating something that could be in dialogue, but was quiet, minimal, yet elegant, and also, of course, durable. And so here you see again the image in the bathrooms with the dome, and then the gallery in the back, which will have projections on the rear wall, and then you have some display for the donor shovels. Terrazzo floor throughout, terrazzo base. So very sort of robust, clean, minimal space that really allows the work to shine, but really just it's all about the things that are on display. So we didn't want to take away from that. That's it.
Just want to thank you all for sharing your stories, sharing the work that I don't think people always understand, the work that's needed not only from advocacy, but also just getting things off the ground. And if this is a testament to believing in yourself and what you're capable of, when you think that things are beyond you, I mean, this is living proof that we can do anything that we set our hearts to. So I just want to again thank the three panelists here today for sharing their stories and sharing the evolution of something that I'm stoked to get to see this Pride Month here in New York City. So I did want to take a moment just to open this up for questions from the audience. I just wanted to start, for me, it's one thing to designate something. It's another thing to have an exhibition, to learn about it. But for those who lived through it, for those who saw the memories sort of erased, one thing obviously we all understand as LGBTQ individuals is that things were always in the shadows. Things were always behind closed doors. Today things are changing, but there's still struggles that obviously we're all facing in the community. And I can only imagine what it felt like to walk in and just re-feel all those feelings from that era, from that time where you had to go above and beyond just to be yourself. Could you share maybe a little bit with the audience or with the group of architects here, what that meant? Because, as much as, we like to, as architects, we create place, we create emotion, we think about the human body, we think about the experience, but it's another thing when you're rediscovering things that nobody else would have really ever been able to experience other than yourself.
I'm really surprised to be saying here that it took architecture to get me to feel some of the feelings that I had in that first year from Stonewall to the first Gay Pride 1 year later. In that first year, from the ashes of Stonewall came Gay Liberation Front. Gay Liberation Front gave us out loud and proud. We were no longer going to be invisible. In fact, the two windows you saw in the drawing there was wood behind them, so you could never see inside. Now you have glass, so you could see inside and outside the building. We couldn't be seen. We were invisible. And over the last 55 years, every time I would come to New York, and if I would go to the Stonewall, I felt nothing. And then she called with that call again and said, "You got to come up and see this." And when I went in, and I think you could see that on the video, I'm not as calm as I am now. In the first Gay Pride March at about 23rd Street, I climbed a pole. I was a marshal for the first Gay Pride March. I climbed a pole, and I looked back, and I saw the people were still coming out of Christopher Street, because we didn't know how many people would be marching with us. We thought maybe 100, maybe 200. There were thousands, and I had a chill down my back that I thought I'd never have again the rest of my life. We were finally a growing movement. We were a community. Every time I came up to New York and went into Stonewall, it did nothing for me. Zero. That day when I came to Stonewall and saw the bricked up passageway, I had chills again. I felt like I was back in what was the place that created the movement. Think about it. Before Stonewall, there were only 100 out activists in the entire nation. Isn't that amazing? That building, that riot, the place that this woman and this agency is building, literally sparked a movement that created Pride, which created thousands of people. And if you look around the world today, at Pride, millions of people. That building that they're working on inspired that movement. You're right, it is impressive. Congratulations.
It's amazing. For someone who understands that it takes your own willpower to be comfortable to come out, right? Like for myself, it was later. For all of us, we have to do an action to be ourselves, right? We always have to present.
Go out and disrupt the TV show.
Exactly. And so having that force behind that, I can only imagine on the counterpoint what it was like when EDG got the commission, what the incredible weight it was to balance the history of a place, commemorating its memory, but also making it a welcoming, porous, inviting center, the antithesis of what it was. It was an inviting center for those who needed to be there to be safe and loved. But now it is a place to welcome everybody to learn about our history. And so my question is, when you have that weight, right? How do you go about making decisions that balance the authenticity of history with the forward-looking, more welcoming, open-armed visitor center that the place is going to be? Because it would have been very easy to just represent what people's memories of that space were. So I'm just curious how from as a collective, right? Because design is a collective, it's never an individual, but how you guys work together to determine that for today.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And it's definitely in partnership, right? Placemaking through partnership that materialized. Again, it was about letting the exhibition pieces and components sing and shine. And I think the mandate was to really create a space that was open, minimal, like a gallery, like our understanding of what modern museums are. and not, inserting and asserting ourselves in ways that, you didn't need to, because people are there to, this is incredible. There's so many people that come and take selfies outside, and now they're going to be able to go inside. They're going to be able to go inside and see, read the narrative and see the history and take selfies inside. And this is a real celebration, again, like not just for New York, but for the globe, really. So it was. There was a sort of heaviness, right? Because you're like, wow, it's a juicy museum commission, which is hard to come by these days if you're not like a star architect. So we were all very, very thrilled. The team, Dow and the team really put together a phenomenal pack. Like our heart and souls went into this package, and it really was something that on a lot of levels, again, I talked about earlier, but it's very meaningful to the entire team. And so it wasn't lost on any of us, like the importance on a lot of levels. But particularly, the team was really just, understood that this was profound. So we wanted to do right by the work, and by working closely with Diana and the team, and thinking about materials and thinking about the exhibition, and just making sure that could shine first and foremost.
That's great. Do you have any other thoughts you wanted to add?
I'm the least creative person on the planet.
That's okay.
So I think that's true. I think part of this whole process, when you are that way, is you do have very good partners who, it is not easy when someone says, I knew what I would want, but it would be very hard for me to describe it. And I am not easy to please. When you are 58 gay Puerto Rican and out of fucks, you are not easy to please. And what is on those slides is what I had always dreamed of. And they delivered that. And the space was tight, and the budget was tight, and the timeline is insanely tight. Everything that could come up, I think, came up. So kudos to them for creating that, because I know it was not easy. The other thing is there are about 1 million eyes watching this project. There are monthly updates that go out to everybody, and I mean everybody. People who live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue want to know what's happening at the space. And so I remember when I first said, okay, so I'll need an update. And Rich says, oh, sure, who's it going to? I'm like, Senator Schumer, the president. But they were able to supply that summary for me every month, because that's what this space means to everyone. And when we started this 6 years ago, I thought the space would be really important. And then the last 6 years happened, and everything that's kind of going on, the number of anti-LGBTQ laws on the books are the highest ever. And so I know it's more important than when we started. So I think to your answer, and it is a welcoming place. We discussed this early on, that we wanted to create a place that would be welcome to everyone, whether you support us or not. And to Rich's point about the brightness of it and how it's set up, we do hope it encourages conversation, the lost art of conversation, where you can come in and have a conversation about what happened there, maybe how your life has been, what's going on in the world. So these guys created that, which is pretty awesome.
That's wonderful. It takes a lot of effort on everybody's part to make something like this realized. So I know you're very humble in your statement of not being creative, but your creative mind is what actually brought this to be possible. So, thank you for that, in all sincerity. I did want to open it up in case anybody here tonight had any questions for the panel. If anybody has any burning items, yep, right here.
Hi. Well, congratulations to everybody. It's a wonderful project. Since I was here in the village, living just up the street from Stonewall when it happened in '69, it's very moving, and it's wonderful. I can attest to just in the recent years of the families, the diversity of people that come here and are, just visiting and so forth. I was always curious about how do you make a national memorial out of a leased space? And I thought, well, certainly you're going to take over part of the park or something that you have actual control over for the long term. So my question is, how assured are we of the continuation of this visitor center in a leased space?
So this is a privately funded project, which means a lot of liability for a small organization like Pride Live, but we wanted to make sure that we would always be able to control it. So that's where the fundraising comes in. Gratefully, the fundraising for the build-out, we had that in place a while back. So now we've transitioned to operational and an endowment. When I first started speaking about the foundational part of the build-out, and one of the things I did say to them, I said, we want to make sure we are there for 100 years. So that's how they built it. But the main reason we kept it as a private enterprise and took on that liability is we want to make sure that we never give it back, like it's always a part of the community. So everyone knows I'm doing this for the rest of the 8 years of the lease, and someone else is going to take it over, and then someone else will take it over. But the big part for us now is building the endowment. So whoever steps in next, year 8, 9, 10, they will have a perfectly running machine, a perfectly running visitor center, and a major endowment where they don't have to doubt, am I going to sign this lease and lose everything? Am I not going to be able to pay the rent? But yeah, that is our hope, is that we will be there for forever. These guys have done their part, so now I just have to continue to raise the money so we can continue to stay there, yeah.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm the pain in the ass from Landmarks that you had to deal with, remember? Yeah. I was just wondering about the National Park Service and the content. How much, did you have to go through? How much control did they have over the content in the interior?
So they've been a huge partner for us every minute since we started this. But given it's a private enterprise, there is a contract that we have in place with them that allows us to call ourselves the Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center. They have been great advisors when it comes to the layout, when it comes to the facility operations, when it comes to the traffic that they think will be coming through. We've had just about everyone from the NPS come through the space. We have shown them all the content for their feedback. But ultimately, we decide and determine what goes into the space. But the other really neat thing, and it's one of the best things I love talking about, is Ann and I are huge fans of the national parks. So to be an official part of that family, I think is really important. We will be the home for those rangers. So when they designated the Stonewall National Monument and the rangers were assigned, those 6 or 7 folks have not had a home for 7 years, so if they want to have lunch or take a break, they have to go somewhere else. So we are their home. We are where they will begin tours, where they can give talks, where you can get your NPS passport stamped, where they can take breaks. So that's kind of the extent of the partnership. But for sure, I don't know if you probably know Superintendent Shirley McKinney. So she's the lead for parks here in the city. Shirley's been with us since day one. And we probably wouldn't have this without Shirley. So yeah, I'm really excited to share that story for a number of reasons. But as a huge Parks fan, to have them in our space is going to be pretty amazing, yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Are you related to the Segal who did the artwork in the park? Isn't it Segal who? Oh, George Segal. Sorry. No relation. Did I get your name wrong?
No,
George Segal. No.
No relation.
Well, if, we have one? Yep, great. Yep.
Oh, just for the recording.
Sorry, the image on the screen of the two buildings, or the one building, what did it used to look like at the time? Is that how it's always looked, or is it with the white top and the brick on the ground floor? Like, how different is than what you would have seen back in 1969?
No, the front. That's basically what it looked like. And you'll see the two front windows, they were both boarded up. The double doors, how you went in, you would walk through that door, you walk a short corridor, then you make a right, and that's where that red curtain was. And then you would go in to the right side. And then you, right down the middle was where the archways were.
Thank you.
Someone else take that one.
Let's talk about permits and city.
Yes. So, I don't know how to answer this one.
Tell them about the jukebox.
Okay. I'll start.
in the works.
Yeah, it's in the works. We did do our due diligence in partnership with EDG about bringing the sign back. Again, just one of the things I think you learn about. If we were to bring it back, it would have to be brought back as a building marker or historical marker or something like that, but in the same exact way that it was back then. So I will say this, we are still working to try and make that happen. It would kind of be the last feather in that cap. I will never do something like this again, you guys. But if the sign were in play, we would probably try and continue going forward, because I think that would be the last thing, is to have the sign back. The other thing that Mark mentioned is when we were looking again for trying to at least confirm something from that night, we had everyone go through, we had historians go through, we had archivists go through, and unless they could 1,000% say this was from that night, we would not say it was from that night. There is that famous photo of the beat-up cigarette machine and the jukebox. That jukebox is a 1967 Row AMI. We have 3 of them. When you go to visit the visitor center, you will be able to play vinyl in that 1967 Row AMI. So while we didn't find the original one, we did find 3 that were just like it. So that's one of the cool activations that we've worked on together. So, yeah. But the sign is still in the works, we'll say.
Was there another hand up? Or? Oh, okay. There you go. I'll ask another question then. The space in the back where you have the commemorative shovels and you're going to have the projection, is that going to be programmed by Pride Live, or is that going to be programmed by the national parks? And 2, regardless of who's doing that, what kind of either community building or events, or what, other than it just being a place where people can come and learn, what sort of community-related aspects do you anticipate this space to support?
So 2 parts. The back space is actually our theater, and this has been funded by corporate partners. And the one thing we did say after they gave us their very big checks was you cannot have logos on the site. So we tried to be really creative. So again, none of this is for public this distribution yet. That jukebox is underwritten by a very specific corporate partner. The theater is underwritten by a very specific corporate partner. The retail is underwritten by, and once you get there, you will figure out who the corporate partner is, but you will not see their logos. So when it comes to content, we do have content already selected that will run once people visit, like when you go to a museum and it's like the welcome video or historical footage. So that's already been selected. As far as the community outreach, one thing that is not lost on us, that was not lost on EDG, and probably one of the main reasons we worked with them, was their work in the area, the work in the space, the work on the buildings. it is not lost on us that we are a new partner and neighbor to the neighborhood. So we've already started that outreach. Ephraim, our executive director, and I, we presented to Community Board 3 weeks ago. We're hosting a reception with the Christopher Park Alliance and Village Preservation in 4 weeks. Ephraim and I have literally gone door to door and started handing out our cards. We have programming in the works with some of our partners, but also the national parks. So yeah, this has been probably the toughest thing I've ever done, and I am ready to move past into being open, because then the public can come. Like it's been our corporate partners and us for 2 years now, and we can't wait for the public to come in and see it and get their feedback and give us ideas like, this is what you guys should be doing here. So that feedback is welcome. But yeah, it's great to transition from the build out and raising money for capital to raising money for programs and education, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a wonderful asset. I think it's going to be, one of the first, obviously there's visibility now in today's world, but it's going to be one of the first foundational spaces that's going to be dedicated to the movement. And I think it'll be really interesting to see all the work that you guys have done over the last several years to make this happen. I think it's going to be a bit organic, and I think it's also probably going to be a little bit of a learning process to see where that takes us and then how those partnerships evolve. So I just want to thank you guys again for coming tonight, sharing the stories, sharing the evolution of making it a reality, and then obviously sharing how the space came together. So I'd just like to thank everybody. If everybody can just give them a round of applause one more time. Thank you. So we have a little bit of time left. I think if there's any snacks or drinks or anything, if you guys want to socialize, feel free. But thank you also all for coming out tonight, supporting the Alliance, supporting our programming. It's very important to have you guys participate in order for us to further our mission, both as architects, but also as members of the community, to support one another. So give yourselves a round of applause as well for coming out tonight. Thank you.